Incredible act of kindness in the rain, she discovered the lost child's hidden Mafia connection. The rain pounded relentlessly against Sarah's windshield as she drove home from yet another grueling night shift at the hospital. Each droplet felt like a reminder of the weight she carried, a job that drained her physically and emotionally, alongside the urgent need to provide for Emma and Jake. Burdened by the pervasive economic struggle in their Midwestern town, she felt the pressure of every dollar spent, every decision made. Just as she began to hope for a quiet drive, she spotted him, a small figure huddled on the corner, drenched and trembling, clutching a tattered teddy bear. Without thinking, she pulled over. Fear raced through her as she opened her door. "Hey, it's okay. You can come inside." The boy stepped closer, his wide eyes filled with uncertainty. He introduced himself as Leo, his voice shaking as he confessed he had run away from home. With every tear that fell from his cheeks, Sarah's heart clenched. The haunting stories whispered in hushed tones around town about Leo's father, a man feared and respected, danced like shadows in her mind. Could she really help him? Her thoughts spiraled. What if this brought danger to her own children? As the rain fell heavier, a heaviness flooded her heart. She remembered her own childhood, filled with warmth and love. Leo's trembling frame was a stark contrast. Her drive home felt eternal, but Leo's story unraveled in her thoughts as they sat in silence. Each word he spoke painted a picture of a life rooted in fear and despair. His father's reputation was a dark cloud that hung over their lives, and now, that cloud threatened to draw Sarah and her family in. What was the right choice? She questioned herself more than once. Should she turn him away for her children's safety or take the risk to help this vulnerable child? A dense anxiety gripped her as she pictured Emma and Jake, their bright smiles overshadowed by the potential fallout of this decision. She couldn't shake the notion that every moment spent with Leo plunged her deeper into a storm larger than her own. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the storm raged around them, Sarah felt the swell of conflicting emotions rise within her. Could she find the strength to face the truth, knowing Leo's father was more than just the man in the shadows? A confrontation loomed in the near future, one that could unravel the very fabric of her world. And as she took a deep breath, preparing to confront the power that loomed over them, tragedy struck suddenly, leaving her grappling with fear, uncertainty, and the relentless downpour. And the question remained, how far would she go to protect not only her own but also the innocent, when the storm held secrets that could consume them all? The tension in the air was palpable as the rain continued to drum against the car, turning the world outside into a blurring haze. Sarah glanced at Leo, who was curled up in the passenger seat, his small body still trembling, not from the cold, but from the tumult of emotions raging inside him. She felt a surge of empathy, but also fear, as the narrative surrounding his family closed in around her. "Leo, can you tell me more about what happened?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with urgency. Each word felt like an anchor, drawing them both back to reality from the tempest swirling in their minds. He peeked at her, the flicker of hope in his eyes revealing more than just the need for warmth. "I thought if I left, maybe I could find a way to make things different. I didn't want to be like him," he whispered, a tremor of despair cracking through his words. The ache inside Sarah deepened. She understood how relentless the chains of legacy could be. Her own childhood memories were stained by boundaries and expectations that suffocated her dreams. But this wasn't about her. It was about Leo, a child awash in the fear of his father's identity, and the weight of what that meant for his own future. "I can help you, Leo," she said, her heart racing as she made the declaration. "We can think together. But I need you to trust me. I can't promise it won't be hard, but I want to help you find a way back." A flicker of gratitude crossed Leo's face, but it was quickly veiled by uncertainty. Self-doubt crawled up Sarah's spine. What did she really know about handling a situation like this? The stakes were higher than ever. Would she be able to protect her own children while alleviating Leo's pain? As the rain began to ease, Sarah felt the heaviness in her chest shift. She didn't have all the answers, but something inside her burned with determination. It was a feeling she hadn't tapped into in years, a resolve to stand firm in the face of adversity. In that moment of clarity, she recognized the embers of her own hidden strengths. The nursing profession had taught her that compassion could be a fierce weapon. She needed to wield that weapon now, not just for Leo, but also for herself. "Let us figure this out," she breathed, though the uncertainty of her own abilities loomed ahead. She'd need to educate herself on the dangers, to confront every aspect of fear that encompassed Leo's life. They would have to navigate through shadows, unnamed threats, and webs of deception woven around them. It would be exhausting. As they discussed a rough plan, Sarah's mind raced ahead. What if she reached out to local resources? What if she consulted trusted friends? She would not face this alone. But just as the first rays of light began to trickle through the storm clouds, her phone buzzed violently on the dashboard. A message from her brother, a name entwined with dread: Leo's father. Her heart thundered in panic. She immediately recognized that the confrontation was no longer abstract. It was here, a reality morphing into a palpable tension. The moment had arrived. She would have to navigate this impossible landscape head-on. Her pulse quickened. This was no longer merely a matter of helping a child, it had now become a battle for clarity and for survival. As she stared at the glowing screen, bracing herself for what was to come, she realized she could no longer turn back. It was time to face the storm. Sarah's heart raced as she stared at the text on her phone, the sudden weight of her brother's name pressing heavily on her chest. Leo, still lost in his swirling thoughts, glanced out the rain-drenched window, oblivious to the storm brewing inside her. She had just promised him she would help, yet here was the specter of his father looming in her personal space, threatening to shatter the fragile bridge they were trying to build. She took a deep breath, attempting to steady her racing thoughts. Could she muster the composure to confront the connection woven between her family and Leo's? Had her brother already drawn a line, implicating her without her knowledge in the very peril that they sought to escape? Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white as she tried to decide her next move. "Leo," she began slowly, feeling as though she were constructing a dam against a raging river. "I need to let you know that is it my dad." Leo interrupted, his voice a quivering whisper. The tension returned, filling the small car with a density that was almost suffocating. She watched as he curled inwards, pulling his knees to his chest, the knight in him faltering under the weight of his fear. "He sent a message," she admitted, the words barely escaping her lips. The honesty felt like both a betrayal and a necessary step. "We need to be careful about what we do next." He swallowed hard, the innocence washing away from his youthful features, replaced by a grim reality. "I can't go back. I want to be like him." His words dug deep into Sarah's heart, echoing her own struggles against the chains of expectation. "I promise, we're not going back to that life," she assured, her voice firm, a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. But deep down, she questioned her own ability to hold the promise, to keep the fear at bay. Her life had never prepared her for this. How could she save Leo and navigate the chaos encroaching upon them? Determined to take some control, she retrieved her phone, dialing her brother's number, breath hitching as the line rang. Each beep felt like a countdown to a confrontation she was dreading. "Sarah," he answered, his voice a mix of annoyance and curiosity. "What do you want?" Her throat tightened. "I need to know what you're involved in concerning Leo's father," she stated, unwilling to dance around the subject. The stakes had shot up, and time was running thin. "This isn't just about you anymore." There was silence on the other end, then a heavy sigh. "I did what I had to do. Things aren't black and white in our world, Sarah. You can't just wish it away." His words hit her like ice shards, painfully real. This was not the brother she remembered, but a ghost of someone pushed too far into a life of choices she would never understand. Leo is caught in the middle of this, she pleaded, voice wavering. I can't let him suffer because of what you chose. Be careful, he replied, and with that, the line went dead, leaving Sarah enveloped in a stifling silence. She turned to Leo, whose wide eyes reflected a mixture of fear and determination. What did he say? Leo probed nervously. Nothing that puts your safety in jeopardy, Sarah lied, the lie tasting bitter in her mouth. She had never wanted to compromise her integrity, yet here she was, tiptoeing over lines that blurred the boundaries between righteousness and desperation. Her instincts screamed at her to act, to find allies, to gather information, to fortify their plans before the darkness closed in. For the first time, Sarah felt the stirrings of an anger, not just at her brother but at the systemic forces that shaped their reality. I'll protect you, Leo. We will find a way out of this, she assured him, a fire igniting in her chest. The revelation of her brother's complicity awakened a ferocity she hadn't known existed within her, a relentless drive to shield the innocent from the past's poisonous reach. What now? Leo asked, a hesitant hope gleaming in his eyes. Now, Sarah stated, the weight of her decision solidifying, it's time to dig deeper and face whatever is hunting us. We need to uncover the truths hiding in the shadows. As the rain lightened, a tinge of determination lit up the horizon, but Sarah sensed that this was merely the eye of the storm. The real confrontation awaited them. With every heartbeat, she braced herself for the fight ahead, knowing that the true threat lay not only in Leo's father but in their own unraveling fears, and beneath that sense of urgency, deep inside, a chilling realization arose: the fight was far larger than she had anticipated and the storm was just beginning. The sun peeked through the clouds, illuminating the wet pavement as Sarah navigated the car to a quieter street, a brief sanctuary amidst their tumultuous reality. Silence enveloped them, but the gravity of their situation clung like moisture in the air, suffocating yet unyielding. She knew they had to strategize, and fast. Where to now? Leo's voice trembled slightly, the optimism from earlier overcast by uncertainty. The moment felt pivotal, each second stretching as if weighted with unnameable pressure. I think the first step is talking to someone who knows about Leo's father's operations, she replied, wrestling against the shroud of fear that threatened to paralyze her thoughts. A flicker of intuition deep within urged her toward an informal contact with insider knowledge: Jenna, a former associate from her job at the community center. Jenna had always had her finger on the pulse of the neighborhood. They both knew the risks, but their circumstances left them with little choice. Jenna? Is she really going to help us? Leo's doubt resonated, but Sarah could sense burgeoning resilience in him, a shared determination that sparked in their shared defiance against the storm surrounding them. It's worth a chance, she said, conviction threading through her words. Taking action felt imperative, they could not afford another delay. As she reached for her phone again, hesitation loomed. Could she, a woman barely accustomed to the complexities of her own life, engage in dealings embedded in shadows? But then Leo's fearful gaze anchored her resolve. She wouldn't let fear dictate their choices any longer. The pursuit of truth transcended her doubt. Her thumbs flew over the screen, reinitiating the connection with Jenna, relief flooding her when the call went through. It was only when Jenna answered that the reality of their predicament flooded back. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle firmly on her shoulders. I need your help, was all she managed to say, voice tight with urgency. She was surprised by her own assertiveness. The sense of danger sharpened her focus, honed her instincts. Sarah? Is everything okay? Jenna's tone shifted quickly from casual to cautious. No, not really. It's about Leo and his father, Sarah ventured, words tumbling forth like rainwater overflows from a gutter. Each syllable bore the importance of the truth long concealed. Jenna fell quiet, the burden of Sarah's words hanging between them before she offered, meet me at the old diner. I'll explain everything, but you both need to be careful. Despite the backdrop of fear, a current pulsed through Sarah, an electric mix of trepidation and newfound strength. With a nod toward Leo, she shifted gears, sending them toward the diner, their refuge amidst the shadowy chaos. "Are you sure we can trust her?" Leo asked, skepticism lacing his voice. "We can't afford not to, Leo," she countered, her tone sharp. "The stakes are too high. We need insight into what we're up against." She understood that this journey wouldn't just teach them about external threats, but also about their own untested resolve. As they arrived, the familiar sight of the diner instantly evoked both nostalgia and apprehension. Instinctively, Sarah scanned their surroundings, searching for potential threats looming from alleyways or behind doors. Their lives had emerged from a cocoon of innocence into a web of complexities woven with deceit. "Stay close," she said quietly to Leo, each step toward the entrance steeped in gravity. He nodded, shadowing her as they pushed through the door into the warm glow of familiarity mingled with the unknown. Jenna sat in a corner booth, face obscured under the haze of a memory, but an echo of loyalty reintroduced itself. A woman of sharp wit and strong intuition, Sarah could feel the current of connection rekindling, but as they approached, a sinking feeling curdled in her stomach. On the table before Jenna lay a collection of photographs, faces flipping through Alice's and Pandora's box, revealing a world that none of them were truly prepared to confront. The moment stilled, an anchor dragging them toward a dawning realization. They weren't just uncovering Leo's past, they were about to stumble deeply into its treacherous depths. "What are you willing to risk to protect him?" Jenna asked, eyes steady and unyielding, the question hanging heavily in the air like the storm clouds they had left behind. With no retreat left in sight, Sarah felt the fire inside her transforming into a fierce declaration of purpose. She was ready to fight with every ounce of her being. But as revelations danced just beyond reach, she couldn't shake the unnerving sensation that they were being drawn into something much darker than they had ever imagined. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes," Sarah affirmed, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. Anticipation mixed with dread hung thick in the air as Jenna leaned in to share the truths that could alter the very fabric of their lives and perhaps bind them deeper into Leo's father's sinister world. As she unfolded the first layers of information, Sarah braced herself, for the reality was about to settle in. What lay ahead in the shadows? How deep would they have to go to find the light? The air in the diner was thick with uncertainty, the familiar aroma of coffee and greasy pancakes overshadowed by the weight of unspoken truths. As Sarah slid into the booth across from Jenna, she couldn't help but note the tension palpable in the air. This was no longer just about uncovering the past, it was about navigating a labyrinth of deception and danger that she had inadvertently stepped into. Jenna wasted no time. "The photos," she said, pushing a few toward Sarah. "They're connected to Leo's father's operations. He's not just involved with low-level dealings, it runs much deeper. We're talking about organized crime networks." The words reverberated in Sarah's mind like an ominous echo. Each name on those images represented lives entwined in a dangerous game, and now, they were directly linked to Leo. "What do you mean, deeper?" Leo's voice was steady, but Sarah noticed the slight tremor, the tightness in his grip against the edge of the table. The revelations were chipping away at the remnants of his childhood innocence, exposing a truth he had no choice but to face. Jenna leaned closer, eyes locked onto theirs with laser focus. "Leo's father is involved in something much bigger than just simple crime. He is connected to people who won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who poses a threat." The gravity of her words hung in the air, suffocating Sarah. Her heart raced, not just for Leo's safety but for her abilities to safeguard him. Did she truly understand the risks at hand? The realization struck her this was not merely a quest for information, it was a subscription to a scenario where lives could be lost, and innocence irrevocably shattered. And at the center of it, they had to figure out how to rise above this chaos without losing themselves, or even worse, each other. "Why are you helping us?" Sarah probed. Uncertainty gnawed at her. Jenna had once been a friend, but in this new context, vulnerable allegiances felt dangerous. "Because I know what it's like to be caught in a web. My brother, he thought he could handle the connections, but it dragged him under." Jenna's eyes flickered with emotion, revealing the fragility behind her hardened exterior. "This isn't just about your survival, it's about standing against that darkness. As Sarah listened, she recognized the momentum shifting within her. She wasn't the inexperienced woman who had feared stepping outside her comfort zone. This new reality was molding her into someone bolder, someone willing to confront her fears head-on. It was as if with each passing moment, her old self was being stripped away, revealing deeper layers of strength she hadn't known existed. "Let us figure out a plan," Sarah suggested, her voice now tinged with authority. The devastation they faced was daunting, but it sparked something fierce inside her, a commitment not just to Leo but to her own evolution. It was a promise that she wouldn't sit idly by while life dictated her fate. Jenna nodded slowly, respect in her expression. The plan would require precision, each move calculated to maintain their safety while they sought to dismantle the ties binding Leo's father to this illicit world. As they delved deeper into the intricate details surrounding the names and faces Jenna had uncovered, Sarah felt the storm in her mind begin to settle, but then Jenna paused, her expression shifting to one of urgency mixed with trepidation. "You need to understand that going up against his father won't just attract danger, it'll also unveil the sort of truths you might not be prepared for." A heavy silence enveloped them, the gravity of Jenna's warning hanging like a storm cloud above their heads. For the first time, Sarah confronted the reality of her situation, not just as a protector but as a catalyst. She sought to instill courage, to be the unyielding force that Leo needed right now. And yet, with a resolute heart, she acknowledged the chasm of uncertainty gaping before them. Leo met her gaze, desperation blending with newfound hope, a testament to their alliance ready to face the darkness. As they donned the mantle of warriors in their own right, one thought flickered like a beacon: what if the most significant threat wasn't just from Leo's father, but from the truths yet to unravel? "Are you ready for what lies ahead?" Sarah asked, locking eyes with both Jenna and Leo, foreseeing the arduous path marked by trials of strength and conviction. "Together, we can face it," Leo declared, solidifying their bond in that moment of uncertainty. As they began to outline their strategy, the specter of their looming challenges hovered like a shadow. Would they manage to pierce through the veil of treachery without losing themselves or each other along the way? A single truth loomed ominously ahead: in their journey, one confrontation could alter everything, one revelation could change the course of their lives forever. And as the diner door swung slightly ajar, a rush of wind penetrated their secluded space, as if heralding the storm of conflict fast approaching, drawing them deeper into the labyrinthine world where they must both confront and unravel the darkness binding them to Leo's father's empire. What awaited them at the end of this path? As the sun sank lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the diner's worn linoleum floor, Sarah's mind churned with a mix of dread and determination. The weight of their conversation pressed heavily against her freedom. She had never envisioned her life intersecting with organized crime, and yet here she sat, her resolve hardening like tempered steel. This was no longer about preference, it was a fierce compulsion to fight for those she cared about, and now, confronting the truth about Leo's father was integral to that fight. "First things first," she said, breaking the silence that had settled like a heavy fog. "We need information. What do we know about how Leo's father operates? Where do we even begin?" Jenna leaned back, contemplating the faces on the photographs scattered across the table. Fragments of lives so intertwined with danger and deception. The gravity of their mission bore down on her, but the fury igniting within Sarah urged her forward. It became essential to reconstruct the connections and recognize patterns. Knowledge was the only weapon they had. "He has associates who handle distribution in different regions. Most of them are hidden behind legitimate businesses. We need to figure out the weak points." As Jenna outlined the connections, Sarah felt a strange calm washing over her. The labyrinth of chaos began to take form before her eyes, and with each piece of information, she started mapping a strategy. The stakes were undeniably high, but the fire brewing within her wouldn't allow retreat. This wasn't just about survival, it was a promise to herself and Leo that she was capable of crafting their future from the ashes of their nightmares. Leo sat quietly, absorbing the gravity of what that future could entail. Sarah caught his gaze, a flicker of fear creeping into his expression. "Leo, this is big," she said, her voice a tether amidst uncertainty. But we are stronger together. You need to trust that. He nodded, not yet ready to lend his voice. A torrent of emotions swirled within him, fear, uncertainty, and yet, a glimmer of trust that Sarah would guide them. It was unsettling watching someone he cared about thrust into peril. The thought of losing her intensified his resolve. He had to rise above the boyhood ties to his father. This was a moment to carve out his own identity, unshackled from the legacy chaining him to crime. Jenna, where do we find more intel? We should reach out to those connected to his operations and see if anyone is willing to talk, Sarah pressed, her mind racing through possibilities as her analytical side came alive. Each question was a step toward securing their safety, each potential answer a thread to unravel. There's a bar on the edge of town known for attracting a rough crowd. Thugs and associates of my brother once frequented it, Jenna replied, her voice steady but colored with unresolved emotion. It might be a good place to start. The notion sent a chill down Sarah's spine. Venturing into a den of danger felt like threading a needle through a storm. But with their lives at stake, she recognized the necessity, her earlier fears eclipsed by her burgeoning courage. Absolutely. We need to be smart about this. Let us plan our approach carefully. Gathering resolve, they mapped out their strategy, pulling from their combined knowledge and experience. Each interaction would need to be calculated, every exchange scrupulously curated to extract vital information without exposing their vulnerability. The gravity of their mission was now something tangible, something they could manipulate to become their driving force. Sarah felt a mix of adrenaline and clarity, realizing they were becoming their own architects of fate. As they prepared to leave the diner, Sarah caught herself wondering what truths they might unearth. Would they expose Leo's father's empire, or would they uncover something deeper, something that would draw them even closer to the emotional core of a world filled with betrayal? As they stepped into the looming twilight, Sarah felt the chill of impending confrontation wrap around her. She glanced back at the diner, a symbol of her old life, and she knew there was no turning back. They would forge ahead into the storm. But the intimacy of their newly formed alliance both thrilled and terrified her. Just remember, she whispered to Leo and Jenna, the moment of truth is coming. We need to be ready for whatever it brings. With determination pulsing through her, they embarked into the unknown, but one question echoed through her mind: what costly truths lay ahead, waiting to unravel their carefully laid plans and redefine their very existences. The tension hung thick in the air as they approached the bar, an unassuming structure on the outskirts of town. Sarah felt her heart thrumming in her chest, each beat amplifying her resolve to take control of a situation that spiraled beyond her understanding. The neon lights flickered erratically, casting shadows that danced like the doubts swirling in her mind. Who would they encounter inside? Would she be able to manage whatever confrontation awaited them? Steeling herself, she led the group toward the entrance, the sounds of raucous laughter and clinking glasses spilling out to greet them. As she stepped through the door, the air smelled of cheap beer and desperation. The dimly lit room had an electrifying pulse, each conversation, a thread weaving an intricate tapestry of lives touched by crime. For a moment, she felt like an intruder in a world designed for darkness. Stay close, she murmured to Leo and Jenna, her voice barely audible above the din. She scanned the bar, searching for any familiar faces, fear melded with curiosity as she considered the tangled web of relationships they would need to navigate. The bar had the rough energy she anticipated, but beneath it all, she spotted a few patrons lingering in the corners, deep in muted conversations that hinted at ambiguities. Let's try over there, Jenna suggested, nodding toward a table occupied by two men whose eyes darted around like watchful hawks. They owe a favor to my brother. If we can get them talking. Sarah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her decision. Some part of her wanted to flee, to escape the suffocating intensity of the atmosphere. But then she remembered Leo's fearful expression, the weight of their mission pressing down like a vice. She had come this far, she couldn't back down now. As they approached, Jenna took the lead, her confidence shining through the uncertainty. Sarah admired her friend's composure. It was a quality she knew she had to cultivate within herself. Each step forward became a test of not just knowledge but of character. Jenna initiated casual conversation, slowly probing for any insight into Leo's father's dealings, while Sarah watched the men's faces closely, searching for cracked stress lines or hesitations that might betray their knowledge. Just as the conversation began to flow, and Sarah dared to allow herself a thread of hope, one of the men leaned in, his gaze piercing into hers. "You shouldn't be here, sweetheart. This isn't a playground for nice girls. You can't play this game without getting burned." His words sent a wave of unease through her, but instead of crumbling, an unexpected surge of defiance rose within. "I'm not afraid of the fire," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Each word became a thread of her resolve, binding her spirit to a purpose far bigger than her fear. The other man, intrigued by her bold response, leaned back, evaluation flickering in his eyes. "Fire has a way of consuming those who underestimate it," he said, a smirk teasing his lips. "You think you know your way around here, but trust me, you're way out of your depth." Her pulse quickened at the implications of his statement. This was more than just a confrontation, it was a challenge. It cemented her understanding of her role in this world, and with each heartbeat, Sarah recognized that her development hinged on more than just knowledge. It required an unwavering belief in her capabilities. The situation became ripe for revelation as Jenna redirected the conversation, but there was no denying that Sarah was transformed in that moment. She hadn't simply crossed a threshold, she stepped into a crucible of opportunity. What hidden strengths were waiting to emerge? As the conversation deepened, new layers of understanding unfolded, but one truth loomed large in Sarah's mind: were they truly prepared for the consequences that came from digging deeper into this world? The tension intensified as a sudden commotion erupted across the room. Bottles shattered, and the clamor swelled. Her instincts flared, they were on the verge of crossing a point of no return. This was not simply a quest for information anymore. It had evolved into a dangerous game where alliances could shift in an instant, and the stakes her and Leo's future raced on the cusp of disaster. In that chaos, the question hung heavily in the air: would they emerge from the shadows into light, or would darkness claim them? The uproar erupted like a storm, shattering not just the bottles but the fragile illusion of control Sarah clung to. She instinctively drew closer to Leo and Jenna, her body taut with adrenaline. The room transformed into a tableau of chaos, a mosaic of panic and shifting allegiances, where every echo of laughter was drowned by the harsh reality of violence. Sarah felt a surge of responsibility wash over her. This wasn't just about Leo's father anymore, it was about survival. Jenna's voice cut through the noise, urgent and clear. "We need to find a way out." But Sarah's instincts screamed for her to stay. This was her moment to confront the forces that dictated their fate. Dislodging herself from the group, she took a step towards the two men still sitting at the table, observing the chaos with detached interest. They were the reason for her descent into this world of crime and danger. Their knowledge was the key to unraveling the mystery that threatened to entrap Leo. She wasn't just a passive observer anymore, she had agency. "Wait!" she called out, her voice slicing through the din like an arrow. For a fleeting second, the room quieted, shifting attention toward her, the focal point of the brewing storm. There was something terrifying yet exhilarating in the way their gazes snapped to her, and she felt an electric pulse of power coursing through her. The man she'd spoken to earlier raised an eyebrow, a mix of amusement and disbelief playing on his lips. "You think you can change the game just like that?" he goaded, folding his arms. Curiosity piqued. Without flinching, she stepped closer, narrowing the distance, her heart hammering but her mind resolute. "You know more than you said. You're not afraid of fire either," Sarah retorted, her voice steadying in the face of danger. She was stepping firmly into her truth. She could confront the flames and, more importantly, she could control her narrative. His smirk faded, replaced by a contemplative glint. "And if I told you that playing with fire could lead to someone getting burned permanently?" He leaned in closer, his voice low and conspiratorial. "What's in it for me?" Sarah sensed the power flip. She was no longer asking for answers, she was negotiating her place in the labyrinthine machinations that surrounded them. This wasn't merely about retrieving information anymore, it was about fostering a connection built on mutual benefit, a transaction in the language of survival. I can give you something you want. I'll help you. There's more at stake here than you realize, she said, the words flowing with an unexpected fluidity. In that moment, she recognized a hidden resource within her, the ability to adapt, to persuade, to navigate the treacherous waters of negotiation. While her mind strategized, calculating each potential outcome, she felt a flicker of clarity. Sarah wasn't simply a girl caught in a web, she was a player, capable of moving pieces on the board. The man regarded her with newfound respect, his expression shifting from predator to ally. All right, let us talk, he said. Before she could relish the breakthrough, the room burst alive again, chaos erupting into the open. Several patrons surged toward the entrance, drawn like moths to a flame. A primal sense of urgency crept into Sarah as she sensed they were on the verge of exposure, not just to threats outside, but to the dark undercurrents swirling within. In a matter of heartbeats, she would have to execute a plan, one that could either solidify her position or see everything unravel. As Leo and Jenna surged to her side, breaths quickening, she met their questioning looks with a newfound resolve. They were tied to her choices now, standing at the precipice of a life-altering venture together. Follow my lead, Sarah instructed firmly, a flicker of leadership igniting within her. With a deep breath, she turned back to the men, now allies of circumstance. Let us make our deal, and we need to do it fast before the flames swallow us all. This was a test, a clash of wills that would reveal not just her character but the burgeoning potential that thrummed beneath her surface, and as she stood on that wobbly precipice, a haunting question loomed: would her newfound conviction be strong enough to withstand the trials ahead, or would the fire of the chaos consume her instead? The air thickened with tension as Sarah stood her ground, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Around her, the tumult of bodies surged like a living organism, fear and desperation painted vividly on the faces of those caught in the uproar. She could feel Leo and Jenna's presence anchored at her side, their anticipation feeding her anxiety yet bolstering her newfound confidence. All right, she said, forcing herself to focus. Her heart raced as she assessed the two men, their interest now piqued by her daring assertion. What do you want? The room was chaotic, a backdrop to her moment of reckoning, yet it felt like the world had shrunk to just the four of them. The man's expression softened, but not without a glint of calculation. It's not enough to just help us. You need to prove you're worth our time. Trust isn't given, it's earned. The truth of that statement resonated within Sarah. She understood the stakes now. They weren't just about Leo's fate, they were about her transformation into someone who could command respect rather than request it. What do you need? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. With a flick of his wrist, the man motioned towards the chaos outside, where shouts mixed with the clinking of broken glass. You see that? Whoever is behind this is playing a game. The problem is, if we're not in it, we're done for. Follow my lead, and I can show you how to stay in the game. Sarah sensed the implications, a journey filled with uncertainty, and yet an opportunity. A fire ignited in her resolve. All right, I'm in, she replied, glancing back at Leo and Jenna, who looked both apprehensive and hopeful. It was time to unfold her role, to embrace the decision she couldn't have imagined making even hours ago. As they followed him deeper into the shadows of the room, she quickened her pace, mentally mapping out every possible outcome. She sensed a shift within herself, an emerging strategist ready to navigate this complexity. I need to know how long you've been involved in this, she queried, sharpness threading through her words. I've been here long enough to understand that loyalty is scarce, and the truth is a commodity, he replied, his candor startling her. The people running this show don't play by the same rules. You'll need to harden your heart if you want to survive. With each step they took, she felt the urgency of her situation deepening, turning her general fears into specific anxieties. Who were these players circling around them? What consequences lurked beyond the door they were heading towards? She couldn't afford to break under pressure. She would not go back to the shadows. As they exited into the night, the rush of cold air was both a shock and a reminder of her realism. She had crossed a line and there was no retreating to safety now. The world was a dark, unyielding expanse before her. Leo, his hand gripping her arm tightly, whispered, "Are you sure about this?" His concern resonated deeply, forcing her to confront the implications of her decision. What was she willing to sacrifice to protect him? "I have to be," she replied, conviction flooding her voice. "We can't let fear dictate our choices. We're here now, we need to take back control. Follow my lead." Just as they stepped further into the night, she realized the weight of accountability she had accepted. The budding leader found herself grappling with the expectations of her companions as well as her own aspiration for power over her own fate. In that moment, as they prepared to engage with the looming threats ahead, Sarah faced a pivotal introspection. What did leadership truly demand? Could the fire she had awakened within her be sustained against the looming darkness? An ominous whisper from the shadows reminded her that true confrontation lay not just with others but also within herself. And as they moved forward, an unsettling thought gripped her. What if this was merely the beginning, and the stakes were already rigged against them? Would she be strong enough to navigate the inferno she had willingly stepped into? As the cold night air enveloped them, Sarah's resolve solidified. This would not be a night for retreat, it was a turning point. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were gaining ground. Their clandestine meeting had ignited embers of courage, and as they moved through the shadows, the heat of recommitment pulsed within her. "We must be strategic," she urged Leo and Jenna, who mirrored her determination albeit with a tinge of fear written across their faces. "A smart offense is crucial to break the cycle," constraining Leo. "We'll gather information to identify gaps in his father's operations. If we expose his weaknesses, we can offer Leo a path away from this life." As they reached their destination, the rough edge of town where shadows blended with dark intentions, Sarah sensed a shift in her essence. These were no longer just whispers of danger, they were tangible challenges awaiting engagement. The landscape reflected the turbulence of their journey. The bar stood firm like a fortress, pulsating with the promise of danger and opportunity. "Stay close and alert," she instructed, leading the way deeper into the darkness. Each step intensified her understanding of her own capability. This wasn't merely about facing external threats, it was a visceral test of her own strength, resilience, and integrity. Within the bar's confines, she honed her instincts, scanning each face and interaction. The malevolent energy thrummed through her veins, synchronizing with her relentlessly beating heart. Fear might fuel chaos, but courage would unravel the threads shrouding her and Leo in shadows. They had to push through the mistrust and create new alliances forged from genuine strength. "Let us split up. I'll talk to someone I know I can handle it," Jenna suggested, her eyes gleaming with a newfound boldness. "Good idea," Sarah replied, briefly sensing the resolve echoing from her friend. Perhaps this world was forcing them all to grow, to step into identities they were previously blind to. As Jenna moved towards a cluster of patrons, Sarah turned to Leo, whose gaze revealed a mix of admiration and lingering doubt. "Are you all right?" she asked gently, sensing the weight he carried. "Yeah, I have never been this close to all of this," he confessed. His voice wavered but held an undercurrent of stubbornness, a will to escape. "Remember, you're not alone. We are in this together," she replied, her heart swelling with conviction as she took his hand, weaving a bond of solidarity. The moment stretched as they waited, tension braided tightly between hope and uncertainty. And then, it happened, a breakthrough. Jenna returned, her eyes ablaze with urgency. "I found someone who knows the supply routes he uses. It's intricate, but with the right information, we can expose him." The world around them faded as Sarah internalized this news, her ambition igniting anew. "Now, we're not just resisting, we're taking back control." It was a moment of transformation. They were moving from victims of circumstance to architects of their fate. The specifics unfolded quickly. Armed with the knowledge of Leo's father's operations, they initiated a plan. Late-night surveillance, tracking shipments, and following leads became their creed. As they strategized, Sarah's confidence surged. She embraced her leadership role fully, shaping the plan into a tangible reality. Her training in nursing underscored this moment, caring for others had transformed into a fierce determination to protect those she loved, including Leo. Weeks passed, each day illuminating their path further into the dark web of lies surrounding Leo's family. And with each revelation, Sarah's growth expanded. No longer confined by her fears, she confronted danger with rising expertise and composure. They began to expose the network that held Leo hostage. "Look at what we're achieving together," she marveled at the alliances forming. Their trial transformed into triumph, self-awareness blossoming with every confrontation against Leo's father's operations. They snagged a glimpse of freedom, and Sarah felt herself reshaped, solid and resolute. With their newfound knowledge, they reached out to local authorities and shared critical information. The apprehension in her chest, once crippling, now pulsed with liberation. She'd proven to herself that confronting darkness was not merely about survival, it was about facing fear head-on and crafting a destiny bound by choice and resilience. The final confrontation approached, the stakes were higher than ever, but Sarah stood ready, arms crossed with solid confidence. In the climactic moment, she faced Leo's father. Her voice rang steady and assertive in the dim light of reckoning. "Your reign ends today. We're revealing the truth. Your games are over." As she held her ground, she felt the triumphant tendrils of freedom wrap around her. She had galvanized not just a victory for Leo, but claimed her own as well. They emerged from that encounter victorious, having dismantled a legacy of fear and embraced a future built on transparency and integrity. Leo, standing beside her, was no longer a frightened boy, he radiated the courage she had given him, and together, they stepped towards new possibilities, a new life unmarred by the shadows that once loomed. Sarah smiled softly, satisfaction swelling within her, knowing she had transformed into the woman she was always meant to be. No longer merely a caretaker, she had conquered fear, met challenges with fierce resolve, and instead cradled the light of empowerment. Her past slumbered, and bright horizons scattered before them. As they moved forward, she felt deep fulfillment emerge from the ashes of her doubts. The America she wanted to reaffirm in herself, a narrative rich in resilience and individual growth. Now was the time to celebrate the journey by sharing their story and transformation, a vital narrative that resonated with countless others yearning to reclaim their power. So remember, if you are inspired by Sarah's journey of resilience and transformation, you need to subscribe now to our channel. This is the moment to show your support and ensure you don't miss more exclusive emotional stories like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and amplify voices of those seeking change. Comment below your thoughts or reactions. Your engagement fuels the community. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this inspirational conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Every act of kindness matters.